So hello and welcome to one of a series of chats with Cricket Society committee members, where I'll have a chance to talk to the people who make the society tick about their cricketing lives. And today I'm talking to Nick Tudball. Hi Nick.
Hello Geoff.
And Nick has been a committee member of the Cricket Society since 2016, and he's the London meetings convener. He enjoys a good work-life balance, having retired from a career in the city in 2013 to look after his collection of cricket books and memorabilia. A military medium bowler, Nick played cricket at Lancing College, where he was coached by the oldest living English Test cricketer, Don Smith, and then at Exeter University. He played club cricket for Cheam Cricket Club, Marlow, Primrose Hill, and also for the Stock Exchange Cricket Club, and he finally hung up his boots at the end of the 2015 season. He's a lifelong Surrey supporter, and due to his proximity to Lords, he's also been a Middlesex member for the last 15 years, so we're both Middlesex members. So Nick, I'm intrigued by your library. I've been told to ask you about your library. So when did you start collecting cricket books?
Well, I probably bought my first cricket book myself when I was 10 or 11. John Mackenzie is a cricket bookseller down in Ewell, and we lived in Cheam, which is very nearby, and he's been going since I think 1971 or 1972. He famously sold a full set of Wisden to Tim Rice around about in the early 70s, but he's still going strong. He's just published his 200th catalogue actually, and I remember my father and I going down to his shop, which is still in the same place in Ewell, and buying a copy of a book called 71 Not Out by Billy Caffin, who was a English cricketer from the 19th century.
Right.
So I bought a few cricket books then, and when I was, 10, 11, 12, then I probably didn't buy much for the next 30 to 35 years, and I sort of resumed my interest in collecting cricket books and cricket memorabilia probably about 10 years ago.
So it's a classic kind of collector's pattern, I think, isn't it? It's when you start when you're a child and sort of you have that rush of being interested in something, and it kind of goes away when study and work gets in the way, and then when you get a bit of time to yourself, you turn back to that.
It's probably a bit like my vinyl record collection, same thing. So yeah, there probably is some sort of classic pattern there. Yes, and obviously, family life gets in the way of that when you're going through your middle years. But so I've got a reasonably large collection of cricket books.
And which book would you pick out as being?
Well, I would go back to probably one of the first books I read, which was a book called The Farce Men by David Frith. David Frith, obviously a very well-known cricket writer and historian, and I wanted to be a fast bowler, still would like to be a fast bowler, and yeah, it's a great book. I mean, he's a great writer. He wrote a similar book on slow bowlers called The Slow Men. He's written a lot of cricket books, as everyone would know. But that would probably be my desert island book, other than a complete set of wisdom.
And was it your love of cricket history that first got you interested in the Cricket Society? How long ago was it that you...
In the Cricket Society? Yeah. I suppose, in a way I guess so, but not really. If there's a distinction to be made, I would say it was my love of cricket. It took me 3 years from suggesting to my wife that I was thinking about retiring and actually retiring. So I had quite a lot of time to think about it. And one of the things I did, so this is again probably about 10 years ago, is I joined a number of cricket societies. The Cricket Society,
You mean there are others?
Well, the Cricket Memorabilia Society and the Association of Cricket Statisticians and Historians. So I probably joined them all around about the same time, really, and I probably didn't know I certainly didn't know much about any of them at that stage. So it was more my interest in cricket, I would say, and thinking I might have a bit more time on my hands than specifically cricket history, but maybe I'm being a bit too finicky on my definitions there.
Yeah. And what's your earliest cricketing memory?
Well, I think like a lot of people, it was being taken to watch my father playing cricket, or not watch, just I can't remember whether my mother was there or not. I've got one close sibling in age, one who's 10 years younger than me, but certainly me and my sister, who were 2 years apart, would go along with Dad when he played cricket. So we would have been 5, 6, 7. I guess when I was probably about 6 or 7, I was probably encouraged to score. So I think, watching my father playing cricket would have been my earliest memory. In terms of I also remember our next door neighbours. Again, I would have been a similar sort of age. Our next door neighbours, the woman very sadly had multiple sclerosis, and they had a colour television, which we're talking, the late 60s here.
Yeah.
I mean, no one had. I mean, unbelievable. There were only 3 channels: BBC One, BBC Two, ITV. No one had a colour television, and BBC Two was the only channel that showed colour television anyway. But rather wonderfully, it had the John Player League on a Sunday. I'm guessing it started in about 1968, 1969. And so I went round to watch. I was invited round to these, what I thought of as elderly people, but they're probably younger than I am now, to watch cricket on colour television. I mean, it was just, one of those. I could be there now. It's just such a vivid moment. But in terms of my first match, I think it was in 1972, so I'd have been 10, and it was Hampshire against Derbyshire, John Player League again, and we saw Barry Richards out for 95, caught at long on the boundary, going for his 6 to make his 100.
Yeah.
So,
that was a great ground. I used to go there when I was a student because I was at Southampton, and I saw Shane Warne.
I think it was Portsmouth.
Oh, was it at Portsmouth?
Funnily enough.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
But rather than, where were you thinking of Southampton?
By the Common and Southampton. Yeah.
I think it was actually Portsmouth.
Yeah. I saw Shane Warne taken apart by Robin Smith on his first tour to England. That was the only time any England player did that to Shane Warne that summer, I think. I've been asking people about their golden ticket for a cricket match. So if you could get a ticket for any cricket match in history, what would you choose to go to?
Gosh, I mean, it would have been fantastic to watch Ben Stokes at Headingley. I mean, I was listening to it on the radio. Botham, Headingley, but actually, I'm going to cheat here because you did mention this in advance, and I did have a think as I was driving in the car yesterday, and I'm going to cheat massively, but there's 3, and I'll very quickly tell you about them. But the first one, I think, is what was called Jessop's match, which was the Oval in 1902, where Jessop hit one of the fastest, maybe it's still even the fastest Ashes century. England were 50 odd for 5 in the last innings, chasing about 260 odd, I think. And Jessop hit 104. He was then out when England were 170, and they still had to get whatever it is, runs to make it. And famously, Hurst and Rhodes said they'd do it in singles, which apparently is a myth. David Frith says it. They never said that, because why would you do it in singles if you could score 2s or 4s or whatever? But that game. The second game, I mean, again, everyone thinks of Botham and Headingley 81, but actually he won single-handedly. He won a match against India in 1980. It was called the Golden Jubilee Test. It was in Bombay, as it was then. And he scored 100 in the first innings, when again England was 50 odd for 5, and he took 13 wickets in the match.
Yeah.
And actually, there are only 3 times in Test history that a player has scored 100 in one innings and taken over 10 wickets or more. And that was one of the occasions. Briley was captain. It was a one-off test, so maybe that's why it doesn't get so much attention. It was against India. They were on a golden run. I think they hadn't lost for 15 matches or something. Anyway, and the last one, the one I would definitely have wanted to be at was the Tide Test. Again, there've only been 2 Tide Test matches, but West Indies, Australia, West Indies, Brisbane, 1960. What an amazing game! And I remember going back to being a child, having a little booklet that our relatives in Australia had sent me about that Test match. Such a vivid memory, even though it was before I was born. That picture of when the last run out, last wicket fell. And actually, I was in Barbados Airport recently, and I actually met one of the cricketers from that game, Cameron Smith, who's now in his late 80s. He was in the sort of souvenir shop. Anyway, we got talking as you do, and amazingly, he played in that match. So what an absolute treat. Anyway, it's a total cheat. I've chosen 3 matches there, but yeah, it would have been great to be in any of those.
Oh, that's great. I mean, you've really recreated them very well as well. It's one of the great things about cricket is people have their own memories of matches, and I guess that's partly what the Cricket Society is about, isn't it? It's about kind of reflecting on the history of the game. And part of your job now is actually organising events and talking to former cricketers and talking to authors on the game. And obviously it's been slightly challenging times over this summer, so how have you approached the challenge of keeping events going during the pandemic?
Well, yes. It's been a challenge, obviously, but we have a natural break anyway over the summer. So we had our last scheduled meeting with Patrick Eager, which was in March, probably a week before lockdown or 2 weeks before lockdown. So there was a natural break, so we didn't have to scurry around trying to rearrange things that were happening in the summer. Myself, I mean, we had days of the cricket which were obviously cancelled, but the meetings traditionally happen in the winter months, if you like, autumn and winter. So, but we decided, well, I say we, I mean, principally Nigel Hancock and myself decided that it'd be great to do some Zoom calls. So we were very lucky that we could persuade John Barclay, who's our president, and Stephen Chalk, who runs the Southwest branch, to do a Zoom call. We had Vic Marks, who's one of our vice presidents, and we're very lucky to have Charlotte Edwards being interviewed by our very own Raf Nicholson. So the Zoom calls have been very successful. I know it's not for everyone, and getting my head around the technology was a bit tricky, but having done one, doing the second one was 10 times easier than doing the first one. And they've all worked very well. We haven't had any disruptions during the tour. Everyone's been very well behaved. We've had good questions. It's actually been quite good fun. So we've arranged those calls because we thought if everyone was at home, it's something for them to listen to. But clearly, with where we are with the virus, we're going to be using Zoom. Certainly, I think into next year.
It's going to become the new normal, isn't it? Even to mix up live events with Zoom events and kind of have these hybrid things.
Exactly, and that's what we're planning for our autumn meetings, to have a live audience of a very small number. I mean, instead of 120, it will be limited to 25 at the Union Jack Club, but to Zoom that event. So hopefully we've had over 100, I think, for our 3 calls so far. So for people who can't travel or don't want to travel, the live event will be available, via Zoom. So I think, I'm looking forward to those. I mean, it should be fun.
And looking back over your time running the events, which ones would you pick out as being personal highlights? Obviously, they're all good.
Well, I mean, it's just such it's such a treat to spend time with your childhood heroes, you know. So I think I would have to pick out the talks we've done with people like Phil de Freitas, Derek Randall, David Steele, Mickey Stewart, although he was a player before my time, but what a man. I'm probably forgetting some key players, but anything with former cricketers, Malcolm Nash, has been just a delight, and I feel so honoured to be able to do that. It's a nice thing about cricket, I think, that I don't know so much about other sports really, but you're much closer to the players. Maybe that won't happen in future, but so that's been a real privilege. And we've had some fantastic writers as well. I mean, my personal favourite was Harry Pearson, who's won our Cricket Book of the Year twice, because his talk was just so entertaining. But I mean, honestly, we haven't had a bad one, touch wood, in the time I've been doing it. So it's just a great privilege to meet some remarkable people.
And going from the past to the future, what are you looking forward to in the year coming up in the world of cricket, whether as Cricket Society or just more generally?
Gosh, well, I mean, I've really enjoyed the Test matches this year. I mean, I know they've been behind closed doors, but we've had some fantastic cricket. I think the West Indies and the Pakistan players have, really, gone the extra mile, more than that, to be here. So yeah, it's been remarkable that they've been able to get that going. It's the first international sport, I think, anywhere. And they're playing the Bob Willis Trophy. We've got, on the women's side, we've got the Rachel Hayhoe Flint coming up. I mean, that's fantastic for cricket, I think, personally. Well, I mean, let's just hope we can have some cricket any cricket, but cricket with crowds in the next year. And for the Cricket Society, well, we're going to have a full autumn and winter schedule. I mean, obviously that could be disrupted, but we've got Zoom, just pure Zoom meetings to fall back on, and we've got some great speakers. So I think we'll keep going. So
plenty to look forward to then.
Plenty to look forward to.
Well, great. Thanks for talking to me today and for meeting up in London. It's really nice to come and actually meet to people to talk to them instead of through a computer screen. Thanks a lot, Nick.
Thanks, Geoff.